Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Only a couple days. The last 2 days, I went to Guadalupe National Park and Carlsbad National Park with one of my good friends, and we we preoccupied ourselves pretty much. So I thought, you know what, it's okay. Hey, just take 2 days off break from vlogging, and then we'll pick it up on Sunday, because usually Sunday is my day of rest for vlogging, but instead I it's telling me I should go to bed. Shut up, phone. But so usually Sunday is my day of rest, but since I've rested from vlogging 2 days before, I decided let's do it now and just continue on. Since I already did my rest, might as well pick it back up. Uh, but it's also really late. It's almost past 12, and I go to bed at like 11. Um, but that is it, how it is. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I love going with my friend because he provokes, makes me think about my arguments and makes me think about life in a deeper sense. He provokes me with questions that I have to think about, and then different counter arguments to my arguments and thinking. And that prompts me to reflect afterwards of how I should um, think about life. And one of them is the difference between killing and murder. And it's one that I've been struggling with a lot lately. And I think I struggle with it a lot because my main argument is that, yes, I think there's a difference between killing and murder. I don't believe Leo Tolstoy is right in that there's no reason in human existence for you to kill another human being. That being said, there's two things I want to emphasize with this, and why taking on the rule of killing is never okay, a better way of walking the world than my belief of the truth. The first thing is well, I'll start with the second thing that I was thinking about, and hopefully the next one comes up. But I think that, including myself, think we know what the difference is. We think we know the difference between killing something that we believe needs to be done in order or for a greater good, and know the difference between that and murder, which is the taking of another person's life with intention, and often considered something that's mal like horrible. I think us as humans like to think we understand the difference and know that what we're doing, if we partake in taking another person's life, is rather killing rather than murder. So, for example, uh, a grotesque and uh, a grotesque example would be something like the Crusades, are where those soldiers believed that they were or divine by God to um, take the Holy Land, and that killing someone to get to the Holy Land, to live on the Holy Land, to who be a part of a greater connection with God is enough reason to kill someone. Now we look back at it and see, wow, that's a horrible reason to kill people just because you believe in God. But that's another thing we have to tackle with the Bible as well. The Bible says, I think, I haven't read all of it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Bible says you should not kill. That's from, I think my conversation with Missy. Go listen to the podcast on Rod Education if you haven't. But I think that's what she said at the Bible all says, one of its tenets, thou shalt not kill. But I also talked with her daughter about an instance where Samson was pretty much sacrificed his life to extinguish Palestinians by destroying a building that collapsed and killed 200 Palestinians. Well, in the Christian belief, it's believed that the Palestinians were inherently evil, that they were the enemies of Abraham and the enemies of God's people, the Israelites. So in this sense, they were given multiple chances to not be evil, but they continuously be evil. And in this sense, Samson's sacrifice to kill himself with the killing of the Palestinians brought about a better, I'm trying to steelman that argument, and trying to better, or the better, or God's hold on the world, which is one of benevolence and kindness, rather than what the Palestinians believed, which is in that Bible sense, in their Christian and perspective and Jewish perspective, was the epitome of evil. Now, the thing about that is, it's what you believe. Because what you see with evil is that we tend to believe a lot of things as evil that is more or a circumstance of ignorance and desensitization. So ignorance as in something like Daryl Davis. So Daryl Davis was a black man who converted 200 KKK members to renounce their beliefs. And how could he do that? Because he asked the question of, well, how could you hate me based on my skin color? And then try to understand their arguments and then give his arguments and came at it from an understanding perspective. And what you found in these is that a lot of them were just ignorant. A lot of the KKK members truly believed that whites were superior to black with the evidence that they have accumulated or the reasoning they've had. And it took an understanding of their arguments, first a listening of them, to bring in our own arguments and say, hey, like, I hear what you're saying. This is what you're saying, but I don't agree with it. There's this argument. And then they say, but that's ridiculous. I don't know, what about this? And then you said, well, here you go. Here's another example. And that's how he's converted him. Another is desensitization. And that's what you see a lot of people in the drug cartel in Mexico, is that they've killed people so many times that it's not even really an act of evil anymore. It's just their normal everyday being. They're around killing and murder so much that it's just it's like taking out the trash. It's like all those mobster and mob movies you see. It's just another part of their lives. And you could say this is evil, absolutely. But you also have to understand the why that it comes with. That a lot of them are in these circumstances where they either choose to do this or they're forced to do this. And you can argue either way. That's probably what I haven't watched The Godfather, but that's probably what The Godfather talks about too. Is that you establish this family that gives you connections and love, but you need to do certain things to be part of that family, to have these club goods. And another thing too is there really might be evil in the world. Daryl Davis talks about how there is some KKK members who he believes are evil, in the sense that it's not ignorance, it's not desensitization, they're malevolent people. But why I'm bringing this up is I don't think most people do enough reflection on themselves, including me, or have thought about these issues, the difference between killing and murder, enough to make that claim of what is killing and what is murder. I think they know that, but if we're not coming at it through a lens of love, a love your neighbor, rather than a love to a supreme being, or love to a external deity, a love for one's own survival, then we get into territory where you think it'll be killing, but it's not really. It's more murder. And another example I like to bring up why this killing and murder is such a gray area, and why I don't think most humans, if almost any, should be the arbiter of killing, the difference between killing and murder, is what happened with Harry Truman, with the atomic bombs. Because when you look in that situation, you have World War II, and you have imperialist Japan, whose soldiers believed that their emperor was a god, and that their deaths were the contributions to this deity and this god, and that their deaths brought them, I don't know, to heaven, because I don't know the specifics of their beliefs, but it was worth something, and it was worth their lives to give their lives to the emperor and the empire. And that's why you have kamikaze pilots. When you're faced with that, and you're given the choices that Truman had, really, there was really only three options. One, continue the war, and multiple soldiers from both sides would die, and that would not only affect the soldiers' deaths, but their families' deaths as well, and also prolong the war for more parties to continue the war, or which who knows if they would have continued or not. On Japanese They certainly weren't. America could have taken a stand at just where they are and not pushed anymore, or retreated and offered peace relationship, and or did something like uh, Martin Luther King with the peaceful protest, Gandhi with peaceful protest. But when you look at something like Nanking, so what the rape of Nanking, what the Japanese World War II Japanese did before World War II in China, where they went into Nanking and raped all the women there, took the babies, and used them as target practice, threw them in the air and shot them for target practice, used bayonets to chop the babies, would butcher the men, the women, the children. When you are faced with something like that, you have to ask yourself, okay, is trying to do something peaceful, trying to exert your strength through peace and love and understanding, is going to prolong it so that Japan can do that, possibly do that to other countries? Will there be more suffering and more murder? Because I think we can agree that was murder. Even though it's hard. Like I said, I think most people agree the rape of Nanking was murder. Is America just going to let that happen with their stance in the war? Or are we going to use atomic bombs to establish our strength, show Japan that you keep fighting this war, you're going to die. All you people are going to die. Everyone's going to die. So you better stop. And it took two of them. And I think I refer in that situation to, well, in that situation, it's hard to say that we can argue whether Truman is a murderer or not. I think you can go both ways. I think you can call him a murderer. I think you can call him a killer. Or you can claim he did what needed to be done in that situation. And I don't think any of them will be wrong. But that's an example of this gray area of between killing and murder. That's so gray. But going back to my beginning of my conversation of saying better just to say no killing at all, because these situations where you as an individual are put into a situation where you might need to kill someone are honestly pretty rare in our modern society and where we're at right now, that hopefully you won't need to be in that situation throughout your life. And it's become increasingly like that now with China and all in America, and the tension's growing. I don't know if it's going to stay like that, but for right now, it's like that. So instead of trying to agonize like I'm trying to do with my philosophy on the difference between killing and murder, maybe it's just better that we say no killing at all for our moral philosophies. Yeah. And yeah, it's just sad. It was sad, the position Truman was in. Oh, that's what I was gonna talk about too. Is Truman was put in a spot where he wasn't given much choice on. His choices were very limited on what to do. But what the Tao Te Ching talks about is, it says as mostly the same thing as like, hey, don't kill, right? But there's this one chapter that I thought was very profound, and it pretty much said that if you find yourself in war, then end it as quickly as possible, whatever are the means to do it. And then afterwards, condemn yourself for having gotten into the war in the first place. And I think that's a really profound and nuanced way of thinking about killing and murder, and thinking about Truman's situation. Because Truman was put into a situation where it was the height of World War II. It was that end, and they were, or it was Japan, and Japan was the only one. So I think he did follow the Tao Te Ching, where he saw a situation, war, that needed to end. So he with his best judgment and understanding, tried to end the war as quickly as possible. Now, I don't know if he condemned himself afterwards for having gotten in the war, because it was Franklin Roosevelt who got us into the war. Well, not Franklin Roosevelt, it was Pearl Harbor, and then America's rage against Pearl Harbor and resentment, and for all the deaths that happened with America, that kind of tipped us over, and a lot more are as well. It was looking like America was going to get into the war anyways, but Pearl Harbor was the tipping point. But I think in Truman's sense, it would have been nice. I don't know if he did this or not, but to have addressed America and said, we did what we needed to do. Now hopefully we can prevent this from ever happening again, and foster peace between each other. And that's what I want. I'm talking Truman here. What I want to accomplish with my remaining years as president is to first foster our peace between people, knowing that we can't do that unless we have inner strength, that we don't need to show off, that we don't need to talk about, but that we carry with us. So I think to wrap this up, I didn't think I was going to go this way, but I really do like what the Tao Te Ching talks about, is if you are in these situations where fighting has occurred, war is happening, battle is happening, end it as quickly as you can. And then condemn yourself for even getting into that situation in the first place. And reflect on how not to get into that situation again. So the taking of lives is not even on the table, because we've done enough to prevent that from happening. Of course, life's more complicated than that, especially killing versus murder. But I think that's a good place to start. And the Tao Te Ching is coming to Raw Education channel, so you gotta check it out. But anyways, that was 25 minutes. Crazy. But I will see y'all tomorrow. Good night.